8. Tinsley Mortimer's explosion. Tinsley Mortimer was the daughter of a wealthy real estate investor from Virginia and was thrown into high society the day she was born. Her fame grew after she starred in the reality TV series High Society and The Real Housewives of New York City. And as perfect as the Columbia University alum seemed on the surface, she was just as human as anyone else when she made headlines in 2016 following a heated confrontation with her ex-boyfriend. It all started when Mortimer called the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office in Florida and asked them to protect her while she got some stuff from her ex's house. Mortimer had dated Fangel, whose family controls nearly half of Florida's sugar industry. The pair had broken up recently at the time. When deputies came to the scene, Mortimer was screaming and crying outside. She said Fangel was inside with another woman and that her purse was in the house. A source told People magazine that the socialite couldn't get over the breakout and that she spent hours and hours screaming and banging on Fangel's door. Because of this, Mortimer was charged with misdemeanor trespassing. She opened up about the arrest several months later, claiming Fangel had abused her for years leading up to the incident. Police had responded to domestic disputes between the couple multiple times, including one incident that left Mortimer hospitalized back in 2013. She also accused Fangel of smashing her car windshield while she was hiding in the vehicle from him. At least one of these accounts was backed up by witness reports. Mortimer said that her arrest was the final straw and it compelled her to break free from the toxic situation for good. 7. Jasmine Hartin. Jasmine Hartin grew up poor in Kingston, Ontario, but lived the dream as an adult while dating Andrew Ashcroft, the son of a billionaire British businessman named Lord Michael Ashcroft. The couple had even become parents by the time they traveled to Belize back in 2021 for the opening of their new luxury hotel and resort on San Pedro Island. But the blonde bombshell's seemingly picture-perfect life took a dramatic turn just a few weeks later when she was thrown in jail for supposedly killing a local police superintendent named Henry Jemmett. Hartin and Jemmett had gotten together one evening to discuss her security detail. Police came to the scene a little while later to find Hartin on an empty pier covered in blood. They found Jemmett's body in the water nearby. He had been shot dead with his own gun. Hartin was immediately arrested on suspicion of manslaughter and taken into custody. In the meantime, rumors started flying about why the married mother of two and Jemmett, who had 5 children of his own, was spending alone time together and what led up to the shooting. Only Hartin knows exactly what happened during this fatal encounter, and her story seems to have changed several times in the last year. In a 2022 interview with 48 Hours, she claimed the shooting was a tragic accident, but couldn't explain how she somehow managed to unintentionally pull the trigger. She's currently free on bail as she awaits trial and no longer lives with her billionaire baby daddy, who packed up their children and moved to the Turks and Caicos Islands after this ordeal. Hartin's lifestyle took a serious downgrade when she moved into her friend's cabin, which has no running water, forcing the former socialite to wash her laundry in a nearby river. 6. Rebecca Grossman. California socialite Rebecca Grossman established a decent name for herself as one of the co-founders of the Grossman Burn Foundation, which is dedicated to treating and supporting burn survivors. She established the nonprofit with her husband, the Los Angeles-based plastic surgeon Dr. Peter H. Grossman. But her philanthropic efforts took a backseat to much more incriminating headlines back in 2020, when she was accused of fatally mowing down 2 brothers during a street race in the middle of a residential neighborhood. Prosecutors are accusing Rebecca of barreling into the young boys as she tore through the streets at speeds of 81 miles per hour. She was allegedly racing against the former Los Angeles Dodgers pitcher Scott Erickson after the pair had some drinks together at a bar. In court, Deputy District Attorney Ryan Gould revealed that the suspect failed to stop or return to the scene and help the boys after hitting them. Grossman faces 2 murder charges alongside 2 counts of manslaughter. The 58-year-old's team of high-profile attorneys tried to get the murder charges dropped, arguing that Rebecca was more or less driving just like a typical Californian when she hit the boys. But the judge overseeing the case decided that it should go to trial after paging through the over 1,000 pages of built-up evidence. It's now on the district attorney's shoulders to prove to the court that Rebecca struck the victims with intent. He's already argued that she knew she was speeding through an unfamiliar area, so she would have also known that there would be pedestrians out and about. He also pointed out that she would have seen where the crosswalks were, and that she should have known to stop at the intersection where the brothers were killed. Whether or not he'll convince the judge and the jury of her guilt remains to be seen. Time will tell. If convicted, Rebecca could face anywhere from 34 years to life in prison for her actions. 5. Antony BAEKELAND. Belgian chemist Leo BAEKELAND secured his family's fortune in the early 20th century with his invention of a plastic product called Bakelite. He made enough money from it to support his loved ones for generations, but unfortunately, no amount of financial stability could heal the internal dysfunction that plagued them. Leo's grandson, Brooks BAEKELAND, had a good amount of ambition but little motivation. Instead of finding a meaningful career, he pursued a life of adventure and leisure. Brooks married a model named Barbara Daly, and the couple had a son named Anthony. Barbara already had issues of her own before joining the family, and her mental state only worsened after she found out Anthony was gay. Not only was she incapable of accepting and supporting her son, she took extreme measures in her attempts to find a so-called cure. At one point, she even tried seducing Anthony herself in hopes of luring him away from same-sex desires. The situation was further complicated by the fact that Leo refused to seek the proper help for Anthony after he started showing symptoms of schizophrenia. Barbara and her son were both prone to violence and were known to threaten each other with knives in arguments. Things eventually reached a boiling point, and in 1972, Anthony stabbed his mother to death inside her London penthouse. Police found him on the phone, calmly ordering Chinese food once they got to the scene. He was later institutionalized at Broadmoor Hospital, a high-security psychiatric facility in England that still exists. Anthony was released in 1980 as the result of a bureaucratic mistake and fled to New York City, where he lived with his grandmother shortly. Less than a week after regaining his freedom, he attacked the 87-year-old with a kitchen knife, giving her at least 8 stab wounds and several broken bones. He then took his own life at Rikers Island the following year while the case was ongoing. 4. Anna DELVEY. When a woman calling herself Anna DELVEY showed up on the Manhattan social scene in 2013, most people had no idea who she even was. And while the sudden presence of a stranger was a bit odd, DELVEY displayed obvious signs of wealth, so nobody questioned her, at least at first. People got to know her quickly, including big names and the service people at the hotel she lived in, who gladly accepted the $100 tip she regularly gave out. But Anna DELVEY was no actual socialite. She experienced a modest upbringing in Europe as Anna Sorokin before moving from Germany to the US and hiding any and all traces of her working-class origins. Her money, designer outfits, and claims of being well-connected only worked for so long though before people started suspecting her lies. Later, it would come to light that DELVEY acquired almost all her money through fraudulent means. She routinely gave out bad checks, phony financial documents to get approved for huge loans, and other highly illegal scams. Businesses eventually caught on to her forgery and deception after years. At the same time, Anna's friends got tired of covering her tabs and expenses and never getting paid back despite the young woman's promises. When confronted, she acted as if she'd honestly forgotten about the debts, which continued to build up while she made one excuse after the other for not having money. After tricking employees at several luxury hotels into letting her stay without a credit card, DELVEY began couch surfing at her friends' apartments. She promised to pay some rent, but of course she never did. Her friends finally got fed up with her mooching when they started getting phone calls from businesses Anna had visited without paying the tab. They tried to stage an intervention in hopes of talking her out of continuing the out-of-control lifestyle, but their pleas fell on deaf ears. By then, it was too late for her to avoid legal trouble. She was convicted of grand larceny and had to serve a 3-year prison sentence. Sadly, most of the con artist victims were left to clean up the financial mess Anna left in her wake, and many are still fighting in court in hopes of recouping at least some of their monetary loss. 3. GIGI Jordan. Manhattan-based multi-millionaire GIGI Jordan made her fortune as an entrepreneur in pharmaceuticals. When her life hit a major low point back in 2010, the self-made businesswoman turned to the same market that made her successful and quickly plummeted straight to rock bottom. At the time, Jordan had a son with her second husband, but was still terrified of her first. When she found herself with no other safe place to go one night, she checked herself and her child into the upscale Peninsula Hotel on 5th Avenue. By that age, the boy had been diagnosed with autism and was nonverbal, but Jordan believed his behavior was caused by the psychological trauma of the drama in her life. And while only she knows exactly what happened that night, the outcome was clear. Her son lost his life to a tragic overdose of tranquilizers and sleeping pills. Because of this, prosecutors charged Jordan with manslaughter. During her case, she claimed the whole situation was her son's idea, but admitted to helping him take action. She also took a dangerous amount of drugs herself that night and emailed a disturbing letter to a relative who alerted authorities. Jordan argued that she felt there was no other way of escaping her ex or second husband. Both men adamantly denied allegations of abuse, and the prosecutor pointed out how it was odd that Jordan supposedly saw tragedy as the only escape when she had more than enough money and resources to get away safely. She was convicted of manslaughter in 2014 and received an 18-year sentence. In 2020, a judge granted Jordan a new trial, but the decision was reversed in 2022 by another judge who found no reason to reverse the original conviction. She'll most likely remain behind bars to serve out the rest of her sentence. 2. Thomas Gilbert Jr. Thomas Gilbert Jr. grew up in the lap of luxury as the son of a wealthy Manhattan hedge fund boss. This Princeton alum was well known among the upper crust and was often seen attending high society events where he mingled with the rich and powerful. But his life changed dramatically back in 2015 when his parents decided it was time to yank the silver spoon out of their 30-year-old son's mouth. Gilbert's multi-millionaire father stopped paying the $10,000 worth of Thomas's monthly bills, including the $2,400 per month rent and upscale gym memberships. He also slashed his son's weekly spending allowance down from $800 to $300. It's a small amount for anyone to survive on in New York City, even if they don't pay rent or have bills to pay, and Thomas didn't like it one bit. But his parents' refusal to spoil him failed to motivate him to independence like they hoped. Instead, he went to their apartment and killed his father with a shot to the head. He tried to make it look like a suicide, but Thomas's mother knew instantly that her troubled son was responsible, and she even testified against him in court. Gilbert was soon convicted of murder and is now serving a sentence of 30 years to life. 1. Zahir Jaffer. Police in the Pakistani capital of Islamabad found a gruesome scene in July 2021 when they found the murdered remains of 27-year-old Noor Muqaddam at the home of 30-year-old Zahir Jaffer. The victim had been brutally attacked and even beheaded inside the upscale residence, which belonged to Jaffer's father, a prominent Pakistani-American business tycoon named Shaukat Muqaddam. Authorities charged Jaffer in connection to the murder after finding out that he flew into a rage after Noor rejected his marriage proposal. They accused the socialite of abducting, confining, assaulting, and killing the young woman, who was the daughter of a well-respected diplomat. He pleaded not guilty to these crimes, but was still convicted and sentenced to death with all the evidence against him. Shaukat Muqaddam welcomed this ruling for his son and joined the voices who used the case as an opportunity to demand changes in Pakistan, which has a terrible track record for protecting young girls and women. In a statement, Muqaddam said, "This case is for all the daughters of Pakistan. The society and media came to our side. The entire nation and the world was on our side." As things currently stand, there's no laws against domestic violence in the country, and it's considered a cultural norm there, especially among married couples, so cases often go unreported. Activists continue to campaign for the criminalization of abuse against women, children, and other vulnerable people in Pakistan. Thanks for watching. Do you wish you could live life as a socialite? Let us know in the comments below and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time. Bye.